All right, so a couple of days ago I said something about Corsair lighting, and the whole video was just based on uh, the different types of lighting that Corsair has and how they kind of work together and play together. Well, this came in LL120. It's a set of 3, and it's got the Node Pro in it. And it's not quite as simple as I thought it was. There are a few little hitches and details, and so might as well go over that while we're at it. This is a set of white fans. I'm replacing the LL120s. I'm replacing the SP120s, the black ones that I stole out of the other case, with the LL120s that will be in the front that will match the other LL120s that I've got throughout the case. So I'm also going to take the opportunity to go from the Node core that I borrowed from the other case and put the Node Pro in. But there's a couple little twists and turns there. There's a couple little caveats, and so let me kind of explain that to you. So we've got the fans here. The fans are pretty easy. They're white, but they don't have black cables. I wish they did. That would look so much sharper, but most of it's going to be behind the scenes anyway, so you're not going to have to worry about it. LL is for the light loop. They are pretty good fans. They're about the same quality or same spin or same airflow, maybe a little bit less than the SP, which is the basically the static pressure fans. They are pretty good fans. The kit usually tends to be just a little bit more expensive because it does have the Node Pro in it instead of the Node Core, and part of the reason why is because it has 2 separate light loops. There's one on the inner and one on the outer that can be controlled separately. To do this is a little bit more of a different setup, and we've seen these before. I showed the other kit where we actually have the 6 and then the line out. That is actually going to connect to one of those 2, which is one of your 2 lines, which leaves you 1 extra for another, say, light strip or something, and then that USB mini will actually be what connects to your motherboard. So we're going to step through this a little bit. Don't know how long this video is going to take. I'll edit it down so it's a nice bite-sized chunk to get online today or tomorrow, and we'll see what happens. But I'll go ahead and I have to do a little bit to get prepped, and obviously I'm doing it on this computer, so we'll probably have to switch back and forth between this and my regular handheld camera, so you're going to have to kind of excuse the audio and the video. So here we go. All right, so at this point I've taken out the Node Core that I stole out of the other box, and I also took the standoffs off. They were right here. We were going to put the other one on with 2-sided tape, but you can also see that I've also disconnected or started disconnecting all of the fan headers, the RGB headers, for the fans, all the light controls, and I've actually started disassembling and started taking the fans out of the front. So we'll get finished on those in just a moment. Okay, one thing to point out in the difference of these fans, another difference I should say, the SP120s don't have a little rubber sound dampener on the corners here, whereas the LL120s do. So you want to make sure when you're installing them that you've got enough of that covered so that actually you can actually use that, or it makes an effect where you're not on bare plastic or you miss this altogether. You want to make sure that you've got enough of that that's making contact that it'll actually do some good. Alright, I've got everything in, the fan swapped out and all that stuff, and it looks a bit like a pigsty at the moment, but I wanted to go ahead and test some things. I've got all the fans connected, hopefully in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I've got connected down to the Commander Pro, or the Node Pro part of it, and then I've got the SATA cable for power for both of those routed along. Everything's going to route around the outside of the box that will connect to these. Then I'll redo everything in the middle. We'll get everything cleaned up and we'll make it look good. But I wanted to go ahead and do this first so that I could test the next part and make sure that all the fans are in the right order and they're going to work correctly. All right, so I'm giving you guys kind of an interesting view here. In the middle of the screen, obviously, is the Corsair iCue setup. I'm down in the bottom right. You can ignore me if you want to. The bottom left, that's the actual real-time live shot from the other webcam into the computer so we can see what we're doing and what's going on and what effect I have when I'm trying to change these. Each one of these is going to be labeled. I do not have an Asus GPU, even though it thinks I do. It is not controllable in there. I cannot set up any lighting effects, but that's okay because I do have these other devices in here. And let me get back to here for a second. There we go. Okay. So if we want to add a lighting effect, first of all, what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the fans are in the right position or the right order. And so we're going to go to the Lighting Node Pro, and then under Lighting Setup, there's Lighting Channel 1. This is what I plugged everything into, was Lighting Channel 1. So you can see all the multicolor and everything going on right now. So I don't want to do that for the moment. Let me do static color. Actually, let me try to do, let me see if I can do Lighting Setup. There we go. So now if I go through and I look at each one of these, LED port 1 should be hooked up to the red one, and that's the one in your bottom right hand corner. The yellow one should be lit up on 2, which is in the center right there at the front, and then the greenish one is 3. You can see the blue one 4, you can see the sort of purple one 5, and if I lean back into here a little bit, you can see that real light pink one right there is on 6. So that means I do have this set up correctly. It took some trial and tribulation in figuring out, but you can also drag and drop these if you need to in different positions if you somehow did not hook them up correctly. In this case, I do have them all correct. When I was wiring it, I figured that was just the easiest way. But if you do not have them correct, then you can kind of drag and drop them to a different position and then set up your lighting that way. But in this case, what I'm doing, lighting setup, I'm going to go to let's see, the easiest thing to do, I can select any one of these and change, and you can see that my AIO is off. You can see that the Vengeance, the memory. When you go into here also, you can change these DIMMs and how they're set up. You can actually rearrange them and put them in different slots so they match what's in your case. It takes a little bit of practice, but it's not too bad. In my case, this should be, yeah, okay, 1x4. Okay, that's good. So we're going to go to lighting effects. Actually, let's go. Doesn't really matter where we go in here, I don't guess. All right, so right now that should, if I just, there we go. It starts doing a rainbow wave type thing. But I want something that's going to go across all of my hardware. I don't want to set these predefined ones up because then I would go through and I'd have to do one for each individual, and I don't really want to do that. I want to set the entire thing up to change all of my fans and everything else at the same time. So I'm going here to lighting link, color shift, and in my case I'm going to do 2 of them, a teal and a blue. Okay, and that should, now my entire case will shift back and forth with the exception of the video card, which I've got sort of on a teal color to kind of, it's kind of in between. Now my entire case, all the fans, all of everything that's connected together in the Corsair lighting, even on the Asus, the motherboard itself, all these, there's separate little IOs, input outputs, and separate little things that are on the highlights and all that stuff on the board itself. All those will shift with all the rest of the colors in the entire case. So it makes it, at least with iCue, it makes it easier. Now, I've got a gigabyte board on the way, and I finally laid my hands on a new 30 series NVIDIA graphics card. So we're going to be checking that out soon too. I'm going to see how well they work and play with this, if they do at all. I don't think they do. I think they'll have to do it separately, but it's something to look at. So I'm going to tidy up all the stuff in the back of the case now that I know that everything works, and we'll give you some final thoughts. All right, after a little bit of patience and tidying up, I've got it. Yeah, there's just no helping that down there. But I've got the most of the rest of it looking pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. The cover will go on. Nobody will ever see that anyway. But the biggest challenge I had was finding a spot for these. Finding a spot for that commander, or for the Node and the Node Pro part of it. And just making sure that what I routed, I was going to have enough, say, USB cable, or the USB that goes on there, or that the wires themselves would be long enough and I'd be able to route things correctly. So that was the biggest challenge there. So all right, we'll go ahead and do our follow-up and get this thing closed out and give you my final thoughts and close this thing down. So there you go. That's our ride for the day with the swapping out the kit, the LL120s from Corsair, because I did already have all the other Corsair stuff and the ASUS stuff in my case. I just following up, especially after I did the video the other day, and you guys can take a look at it. It was the last video I did, just going over some of the basics of all the Corsair lighting and the different types of control modules that they have. Since I got this, I just now got it, so I was able to go ahead and install it. It took, because I did have to go through, I had to get additional SATA power because I had already used up all the SATA slots on the one cord. I had to use a different cord that was attached to the power supply, or in my case it was a modular, so I had to actually attach it to it. A little bit of the cable routing, a little bit of thought going through and figuring out, and then just making sure I had the right ones plugged in the right spot. So I would probably, if you're new to it, you might invest an hour and a half, 2 hours just to make sure you got everything going, and you're, there's no such thing as doing this perfectly. There's going to be mistakes or going to be redos, or you might have to mulligan along the way or so. But overall, it worked out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with it. You will notice that when you turn the computer back on, say you've restarted it, turn it off, turn it back on, because that, and in my case the AIO are both connected through USB to tell it what to do. It will cycle through the unicorn vomit as it first comes on. Don't worry about it. It will go back and do the color pattern that you chose, unless that's the color pattern you chose. But it will go ahead and do the color pattern you chose once the computer actually gets started. So I just wanted to go ahead, like I said, I wanted to follow up on that because I did do something the other day and I found out it was slightly different than I was thinking, but I figured I'd take you guys along on the ride, and hopefully it's been worth something. If so, go ahead and leave me a like, and don't forget to subscribe. Hit me up on the other social media and all that stuff. I've got a lot of other stuff coming up. That HP pre-built I did that had the 4600G in it, I'm going to go ahead and stick the 4350G that I ordered from Korea. I'm going to stick that in there to see if there's any performance difference in it. Of course, I've got the new 3060 on the way. It's a Gigabyte Aorus, I think it is. I don't remember for sure which one it is. I won the Newegg Shuffle, and so I went ahead and bought that and the motherboard because I needed an X570 motherboard as well. Lucky enough to get that, so that's in a video coming up. I will do some benchmarks but from the RTX 3060 versus the RTX 2070, the last generation. I already know how this is going to turn out. You guys might not, but that 2070 is actually a better card, but it does take up a little bit more power. So we'll see how they compare and how close they might be. I am definitely going to be using the 3060 in a different build, but I don't know whether to keep it with the Aorus, the Gigabyte Aorus motherboard that I'm getting, or whether to go ahead and pair it with the other, the Asus and all that I've already got set up. So we'll just have to see. You guys welcome to stick around and see what happens there. Anyway, that's all I got for this time. I just wanted to go through, and if it helped anybody, I hope it does. It helped me kind of keep my head straight and figure out, and I like the way it turned out. It really, you guys have already seen it, but I've got all the cable managed, cleaned up, everything put back together, and she's obviously working great because we're recording this. So anyway, that really is all I got for next time. I'm going to stop talking now, so I will see you later.